Let's kickstart with the 11 Malaysia Plan.
Sure.
Firstly, on the GDP targets. The economic planning unit targets to increase our GDP to 2.6 trillion ringgit in 2030, year 2030. That's from 1.4 trillion ringgit in 2020. So that's almost double in a 10-year time frame. Do you think this target is actually realistic, in your opinion?
By calculation, if you to double the figure in 10 years, you need 7.2% growth per annum. To achieve a 7.2% growth every year for consecutive 10 years is rather an uphill task. So I think we have to be more realistic in that. That is tough because I think even like a very high growth nation like India and China, even some of them in Indonesia, you look at it, they have that big group of or other population, that large population, as compared to Malaysia, it's only have 30 million or even slightly more later part. But that small population may not able to grow at that rate for 10 years.
But looking more towards the nearer term, from 2015 to 2020, based on our GDP right now, absolute amount, to achieve 1.4 trillion ringgit by 2020, is that also realistic?
So again, now we are slightly more than a trillion. So let's say from a trillion to a 1.4 trillion, you need about, within 5 years to grow about 400 million. So that again, analyze, you need about quite high growth, 7-8% growth, sort of 6 to 8% growth. This year is about 4.5 to 5.5. To have that, I think we need to do more things to achieve that, which again is quite tough, challenging. Yes.
Now on inflation, the government has projected that inflation will remain below 3% from 2016 to 2020. Do you agree with its projection?
I would beg to differ this because I think 3% is again, if the kind of growth we are setting and the kind of activities, robust activities to grow the nation GDP and whatnot, at the same time to curb that inflation into below 3% is again very challenging, and depending on circumstances, which I think cost push inflation will be higher already. So therefore, to maintain that is tough, especially when we look at currencies. We look at inflation in terms of cost push rather than demand driven. So that part itself is tough. But having said that, if you look at demand driven, so I would think even towards the end of the Malaysia Plan, let's see what is the result. If the result is really encouraging, then the consumption will come in, and then it may again challenge this 3%. If not, then just purely look at the consumption side. I think 3% can be controlled, can be managed.